Hello, and you're very welcome to Music As, an interview series where I'll be chatting to different people about the role music plays in our lives. I'm Louise O'Connor, a fiddle player from Clare, and I'll be joining the dots between music and lots of different areas. You can listen to the podcast on all the usual platforms and on my website, louise.ie. You can follow at Music As Podcast on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and please like, subscribe and share the podcast if you enjoy it. I'm delighted to welcome my guest today, sixth generation fiddler, songwriter and multi-instrumentalist Clare Sands, who also has a black belt in martial arts. Clare hails from Cork originally, and her curious nature has led her to travelling extensively, infusing myriad influences from around the world with Irish music to create what Hot Press called a unique force in Irish music with her impassioned voice and musical genius on stage. Pure M magazine said Sands has forged a fantastically feisty fusion of folk, jazz and trad that simultaneously soothes and excites as it unfolds. As well as her solo sets, she has collaborated with Mick Flannery, Susan O'Neill, Hot Out Flowers, to name but a few. This year she's come back to her roots with an immersion in the Irish language and a fascinating project called Tírdreacha agus Fuaimdreacha, meaning landscapes and soundscapes, which sees her travelling across the country collaborating with 4 artists in 4 provinces, creating songs in both the English and Irish language. The whole project is being filmed and Clare is currently working on a new album which incorporates these collaborations. I really enjoyed this chat with Clare about the magic of the west of Ireland, coming back to your roots and parallels between music performance and surfing. You can find out all about Clare's upcoming projects and find all her EPs and albums on claresands.com. I'll open the interview with a track from Clare's EP Basement Sessions called Malacon Reel. Hi Clare, thank you very much for joining me today. How are you doing?
Hi Louise, how's it going? I'm good, thanks for having me.
Great, you're very welcome. It's great to talk to you, Clare. I have been really interested in the creativity that's being flowing out of you in these COVID times. So could you tell me a little bit about what's going on for you at the moment? I know you are all over the country in these few months.
Absolutely, yeah. And thanks for having me on. First of all, it's great. I know I was telling you about my hectic day today, moving house and coming up to Dublin and everything's to be sitting with you and chatting about music. Tírdreacha agus Fuaimdreacha means landscapes and soundscapes, and it's a project that I dreamt up, I think last summer after I moved to Connemara. So I moved to Connemara on Paddy's Day in 2020, or it could have been 2019. Who knows how long this thing has been going on for. But I moved to desolate, very, very beautiful Connemara and dreamt up this project. So basically Tírdreacha agus Fuaimdreacha spans over 4 seasons throughout the 4 provinces with 4 different artistic collaborators. So my monster collaborator was Susan O'Neill. She's a fantastic singer-songwriter from your part of the world, from County Clare. And we put out Carry My Song in January. And my Ulster collaborators then, my most recent collaboration was with Tommy Sands, who's a phenomenal singer-songwriter from, and also my cousin as well, might I say, from County Down, handy indeed, from County Down. And Tommy was highly involved in the peace process in the Troubles, and just as a man of peace and an amazing figure, an amazing inspiration figure in my life. And he was with the bowled Steve Cooney up in Donegal. So we've just put out Aberlum the Rune, and I'll head then to Connacht to my friend, harpist and dancer, just absolutely brilliant, Bree, and then finishing it up in Leinster with Liam O'Malley. So quite a mixture of artists, and just so honoured that they're all on for it, you know?
Amazing, Claire. I was very inspired by how you dreamt up this project at a time when, you know, the rug was kind of pulled out from everyone, and anyone who's in the music industry was just probably recovering from the shock of everything being cancelled for the year. So I think like it shows amazing resilience like on your part. And could you tell me a little bit about how that idea emerged when you were down in Connemara?
Yeah, the resilience, I suppose, I think it was really, really nice to see how everybody made the pandemic and the lockdown work, especially artists. It was just incredible what people were doing, and the amount of phenomenal collaborations that came out of it, you know, and the ingenuity and creativity of the streams and everything. So that was really, really inspirational. How did it come about in Connemara? I think solitude and returning to my roots, you know. It sounds like the cottage that I was in Carrow, although there was probably a little bit more people around compared to East Clare, it was still quite a change of scenery compared to Cork City, you know.
Yeah.
And in a way, when there's no live gigs, there's no audience to be bouncing off, I was bouncing off nature. I was bouncing off the Irish language, off the stories that I was finding in the area. And I never left, quite literally 5 minutes outside my door, and I had the 3 beaches there to swim in every day. You know, the local lads, Gaelgores, hadn't a clue what they were saying for the first few months, giving me periwinkles, and just a very, very different way of life.
Yeah, amazing. So it was like a total immersion in the Irish language and in the sea, quite literally, as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And have you done that before, like that kind of immersion in the language and in wilderness like that?
Yeah, the wilderness, the Galway wilderness, yeah. In the language, no. I mean, I had it really, like I was fluent in school, and, you know, used to go to a local musician's house every week just for chorus, and was just enamored by the language. But I suppose after college, unless you're practicing it, it tends to disappear. And I started learning Italian and Spanish and these other languages, and the Irish got pushed to the back of the brain. So it was there. It just needed to come forward again. So that's really, really nice that I've returned to that place, because it's been such a huge part of my life for the last year, through song, through story, tunes, everything, just a massive part.
Yeah, and that came into your project then, like with your songs like Carry My Song, and loved how they came together, like in the song with Susan. Like could you tell me a little bit about that, the development of that song and the message in it?
Yeah, that song. Going back to the Irish, I think when I moved to Connemara, I made a conscious decision for whatever I do forward in this life to incorporate the Irish language in there somehow, whether it's calling a tune in Irish, whether it's 1 or 2 focal, like in a song, just something that I can do my part every day to just say, this is what I'm passionate about. And it was always there with Irish traditional music, but it's nice to expand that a little bit. And with Carry My Song with Susan, I landed up there, I think the second week in January. We had a week together, and for the first few days, I hadn't seen her in about a year. We were chatting, catching up, but then we said, okay, let's get to work. And we went exploring a couple of different sites in Clare, some of them that you might know, like St. Coleman's Cave. Loads of spots around the Burn, just looking for somewhere to record the video for the song that we hadn't conceived yet. So we were up in St. Coleman's, clapping our hands, trying out different reverbs, you know, traipsing around the Burn and just collecting sounds, really. And it came to Thursday, nothing written yet. The crew were coming on Saturday, nothing written yet. And then, it just came very fast. we'd been discussing a lot of different things during the week, and one thing that really resonated with me, and it's still really resonating with me, is the darkness that can also be found in a lot of those places in the west of Ireland. And now I know I'm not from the west of Ireland, but I've spent an awful lot of time up around Clare, and of course for the last year and a half in Connemara, and maybe as well it's in our songs and stories, and the amount of songs about the sea and how it just turns, and about drownings, and you know, so many of those old Shannon songs are just they're heartbreaking, but yet it's the most beautiful place in the world in my mind as well. So Carry My Song, we wanted to capture the dark and the light, really. And the lyrics are really about the dark and the light, and moving between the two of them, and carrying our song across the sea no matter what, you know. And again, trying to incorporate the English and the Irish as well, just to bring it home. So it was quite an experience to get to work with her in that way, because I've played with Susan many times, and it's such a brilliant experience every time, but it's been more as a session musician with her, you know, and accompanying her material. So it was really nice to sit down together and just say, let's see what happens, you know?
Yeah, I think that's at the core of a lot of Irish music, isn't it? Like the juxtaposition of like the darkness and the light. Like the music is so, you'll want to dance to it, and then you'll almost want to cry, like to you know, listening to a Shannon song.
Yeah.
I think it's often those darker periods as well, like that creativity comes out of as well, like, isn't it? So.
Absolutely. I was really thinking about it yesterday, because I was on Loch Corrib, you know, up in Galway for the day with my dad on his little fishing boat. He only goes out in it for a few days a year, and just Loch Corrib yesterday, 16 degrees. That's why I have the red face, and just absolutely beautiful. But then in my mind, I was thinking of the tunes and the airs that I know, like, for example, Anna Coon, which is about a sheep basically putting its foot through the boat and everybody drowning. So that sounds like I'm bringing the conversation to a really dark place, but it is the reality as well of a lot of those tunes and life in the west of Ireland, you know, for a lot of people. It was not always easy, and I think you see that in the walls even, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose, like, speaking Irish, immersion in Irish, like, did you find that it put you into a certain kind of headspace, like a different kind of headspace?
Yeah, definitely. When you're speaking in Irish, everything seems to make a little bit more sense in many ways, you know. Well, it didn't for a long time for me when I was trying to listen to these lads speaking very, very heavy Connemara Irish, but I do love how words, it's even hard to describe in English, but how words are just so deep, you know, they just run so deep. And there's words in Irish that we just do not have in English, you know. And yeah, I know you mentioned we were chatting earlier about Mancon McGann, and I mean, he has just, that book that he wrote this year, 32 Words for Field, and his whole outlook has been extremely inspiring as well. So it was a good year for him to bring that out, so I could delve deep into it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much more nuance in some of the Irish words, isn't it? You mentioned the word Preachta for your time up in Donegal, and yeah, all these little words are just don't quite have the same kind of, yeah, maybe we just feel the effects of them more, like they're in our bones somewhere.
Yeah, and the juxtaposition of so many of them as well, and how they all have sister, you know, and brother words, you know, like one I was thinking about is counter and alter is the underworld and the world we live in now, I suppose, like the other world, and how they even sound so similar, like solus and dolus. I think we were speaking about that in the Carry My Song, and yeah, it's just the relationship is it's brilliant, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the music, like the old Irish language songs, they're a way into like understanding that kind of like in that kind of like depth.
Yeah, Kinta.
And Oberlum de Ruin, then it's all in the Irish language apart from the spoken words. So could you tell me a little bit about that, like how that song came about and how that collaboration happens?
Yeah. that collaboration was me chancing my arm anyway, asking the two lads if they want to get involved, which they said yes. So I was like, great. But the aabout the Rún was meant to be, I suppose, the Tírdreacha, Fuaimdreacha element for spring, for an Tarach. So the words are basically, if I can translate them now, if I can speak, Majin Arig Tussi, the spring morning has started. Glanda aig le dreamt, clean your face with dew. Cuivni the shielty, there's memories in your seeds. aabout the Rún is the first verse, and that's meant to be about, I suppose, returning to the old traditional ways that we did have in Ireland on St. Bridget's Day. People waking up and going out and washing their faces with dew and the red cloth on the trees and leaving out a gift at the door for her. And then, I just go into that a little bit more in the second verse, talking about young and old making bridges, crosses, and my words were meant to be in response to Tommy's words in the spoken word piece. And him being a cousin of mine and talking about the generations of fiddlers that have succeeded me. I wanted to answer that and say, yeah, Tommy, aabout the Rún, tell me your secrets about, my heritage, but also I wanted to get these secrets from the ground and from the old traditional ways that we did have. That seem to be returning, don't they? Like, people seem to be a little bit more in tune.
Yeah, avioken was the word.
Yeah,
I heard you using like a renaissance, like a revival of interest. Yeah, like I've come across that revival of interest. All right, I think it's like just having more time, isn't it? We've all had more time. And you're one of your songs, Let's Take the Time, from your basement sessions. Like, I was listening to that, I was like, that was almost like prophetic. Like, it was like a wishing for us to like take more time. Like, and suddenly we have all the time in the world. So I guess like for a lot of people that has been more about connecting to like the place they're from and to language and the old secrets as you said, like of the hurt.
I think we had nothing else left. Like, we had nothing else, throughout all of the pandemic. We couldn't see family, couldn't see friends, we couldn't go where we wanted. There's literally nothing that we wanted in a way other than putting on our Netflix in the evening or whatever takes your fancy. But definitely just returning to the roots, and you could at least hold on to that sense of place and heritage and roots. And I think that's why there has been such an avioch and leishantanga, and Irish music as well seems to never be in such a healthier place, and long may it live, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the amount of creativity that was happening, as you said, like in the live streams, it was just incredible. Like, it was really inspiring to see like what was going on, and I think just everyone needed it. Everyone was like, it fed us, it fed everyone. And I think there's such an appetite now for like that live experience again, and hopefully like an increase in the valuing of that experience as
I hope so. I hope so. I hope so.
Just back to the video, and you're like in both videos, Carry Me Song and aabout the Rún, the landscape seemed to be important, like part of it as well. And then like your movement, like I loved the way you incorporated like dance like within it as well. Like, is that important for you to like to have that like embodied experience?
Yeah, I don't know what came over me that maybe it was a little bit of poaching that I had. Like, I don't know what came over me, but I honestly woke up that morning of the shoot, and I was like, I need to run up that mountain full blast, like with no shoes, just as fast as I can go. And so the two girls, Liad and Akasha and Yvrain, who've been directing and filming everything, who are just amazing women, and they were like, okay. So we were bolting up this mountain as fast as we could go, everyone tripping, falling everywhere, like in this blizzard of snow. So the morning that we were meant to film was just a Donegal blizzard, But I think movement and just being totally free and actually not giving two shits what anyone thinks, like, and just being completely loose. And I just loved it. It was great crack. jumping around Donegal Mountain with no reserves. But I think, poor old Steve was a bit scared. Like at the point, he was grand, I'd say, but there was one point, right, like when I was up on the chair in front of him, just losing it all together, and he was like, Claire's been working her pagan magic on me, can I leave now? We were like, yes, Steve, go and have some cake. So yeah, but roll with it, push the boat.
Brilliant. Yeah. I know, like, you have this whole side to you, Claire, that is, I know you're a black belt in various martial arts, if that's right. And you've written like a beautiful song about surfing in Clare, which I love. So yes. I'm sure that side of you, like, serves you, like, in the kind of resilience that's required to be a touring artist as well, I'd say.
Yeah. Martial arts has been a huge part of my life, like pretty huge. I started training in karate when I was about 8 and did get my black belt and went over and represented Ireland and Italy and all this sort of stuff. But do you know something? It's not that different from music in many ways. I mean, it's a very solitary activity that you have to be fully invested in. You know, there's no messing and not missing training sessions, similar to your violin lessons or whatever else. You know, it's really dedicated, and definitely it's nice to know when traveling and that, like, I'd be fairly handy, like, to defend myself, I hope. But yeah, you know, I'll have to give you some lessons for your South American South American trips.
Absolutely. Does it help you, like, mentally, like, as well, you know, that kind of discipline, you know, to just keep yourself right when you're, like, traveling all over the world, touring?
For sure, sports, and like at the moment for the last year or two, it's just been swimming, sea swimming, and not doing big massive swims by any means, but getting into it most days, and it is a rejuvenation and just such a reinvigoration as well. So that definitely grounds me. And a lot of the time when I have loads of gigs, whenever they last, where I look for the nearest swim spot, and like I am that weird person that's like up at the party all night, like playing away, but then I'm gone the next morning, like to the nearest swim spot, you know, and like look like a ghost, gone face. But yeah, definitely I would highly encourage everybody to get deep into the well of the sea, you know.
Yeah, I'm a big fan also.
Good.
The swimming. And I was thinking about, I suppose, the surfing, the kind of parallels with playing music. When you surf, like, it's maybe 20% skill and strength, I think, and then it's like the rest is a head game, you know, to like to kind of push yourself to get over kind of fear, I suppose. And I was just thinking about that with performance, like, and with kind of presenting yourself artistically. Like, you can have all the skill, technically be a really good player, but, you know, there's so much of a head game to present yourself, to make yourself visible, and just at some point you just have to go for it. And, you know, present your projects, present your ideas. Like, is it something you've always been comfortable with, to perform, to be main stage and doing your solo sets?
I definitely get really, really shy, for sure. You know, you might not think it, but like the interview I just did there in RTE, I didn't say 2 words. Like, thank God I had another fellow with me, and he was like, Claire's being very humble and quiet. And I was like, I like to just express it in the music, I think, you know? You have to believe in what you're doing, or else nobody else will believe in it, you know? And something I've been thinking recently about, and maybe it's just, funnily enough, I was really thinking about Bob Dylan, because it's his birthday was this weekend, and about all the songs he robbed, you know, and the inspiration from the Clancys and all the different, he just studied music for years and spent so long, like, before he released anything, just traipsing around apartments in the East Village and West Village and taking into consideration everybody else's records and just learning. And you hear so many of those influences in his music. And I suppose I was thinking about authenticity in music, and like, does it exist, or is it just like what we believe and whether our heart is in it? So I try to, like, live by that I have my heart into it, or else, like, I'm not going to believe it. And I can't say this is my original fiddle playing, because it's coming from somewhere else in a way as well, you know. So that's the only thing that I try to live by, but it doesn't mean that I'm not absolutely breaking it before a load of gigs,
Yeah. It's really common, isn't it? Like people who, present as very confident performers like that actually have that kind of shyness, like kind of in the background and that.
Yeah.
And it's a head game. a
Yeah,
lot of
you're
it,
right.
isn't it? Like
Yeah.
kind of just putting that confidence on, like,
Yeah.
the idea of music as self-development, I think, is very interesting. How you project these different parts of yourself on stage and kind of almost become like a different version of yourself almost sometimes.
I totally agree.
Yeah. And I know you've traveled an awful lot, Claire, and we were talking a little bit about that, but I found it so interesting how you were taking influences from Central America and from all these different countries you've been to. Could you tell me a little bit about your traveling experiences and how they have shaped and combined with your traditional music?
Sure, yeah. I suppose every January I've went away by myself anyway for the last 5 or 6 years. So to Guatemala and Morocco and Cuba and Mexico, a lot of very magical musical places. And you definitely are everybody's best friend when you have a fiddle and a guitar in your back and not much else, but it's a great way to travel. Music is just such a universal language, and it doesn't matter what anybody's speaking, you just sit down in a session. And so definitely have just picked up so many little tricks of the trade along the way, but have just been, music just has no boundaries, and have been completely enamored with different cultures and different musics, and in all regards, like in regards to food, their textiles, their art, whatever else. So in particular, I think 2 years ago was Morocco, and that was definitely a massive influence, playing with the Gnawa and the local Berbers in Jem El Fnad, like the main square there in Marrakesh, was definitely put you in quite a trance. And it comes out a few years later, like you're playing a reel and then you're like, oh, that note shouldn't be there, so to just take it all in. And just a great way to get to chat to people and know people on the road.
Amazing. And I know, like, you're describing your style as developing almost like jazzy and like bossa nova influences. Like I think it's so like your Malacon reel, that reel just has a gorgeous jazzy feel to it. I think it's lovely to dance to. Like it's really nice.
Good. I'll have to try dancing to it at some point.
Yeah. I was playing it for my Sean-Nós students, and they loved it.
Great. Yeah, that was named after the main boardwalk in Havana.
Okay.
It's called the Malacon, like similar to Salt Hill Prom, or like the main promenade. So that's where that came from. And I had this amazing basement in Cork City, like amazing basement in the heart of the city. So the minute I came back, just got all the players together and said, right, let's see what happens here with this, So that was a great experience.
Yeah. So your basement project was almost like setting you up well for COVID, like, wasn't it? Like you kind of locked yourself away in the basement for a while and kind of immersed, just had all your instruments. And I remember you were saying, like, if I ever get out of this basement, I will. So that was like, you had already done like a kind of a similar kind of total immersion for a while, did you?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and definitely that EP was all of the influences. They were just all there, and it's been nice now, maybe just with a bit of maturity, a bit of time to just take and pick those influences. And as I said, the music is definitely, it's come home again. It's come home to what it started as when I was a 7-year-old girl, like, playing tunes with my dad, and it's come back to that. But I needed a few years of exploration, and long may they continue. But I've definitely found where my passion is and has always been. It just gets a little bit, it just veers, and you go down all the roads of the crossroad before you keep going straight,
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have a burning desire to get on the road again? Are you dying to get on the road, like to get on tour and travel?
You know what? I wasn't until about 2 days ago. I don't know what shifted, Maybe it was talk of all these tours coming up, and when people start talking about it again, it definitely plants the seed, and it starts to grow.
Yeah.
You can't stop that. So I mean, 2022 is looking really, really exciting, like really, really exciting. So let's just hope that it all goes ahead. But I feel ready now. I feel like totally ready, which is really nice, because I would not have been saying this a year ago or 2 years ago. Just needed time to get all the tools in place and figure out where I'm going, and I'm just going home.
Yeah. This project is just an incredible marker of this year, like with the 4 seasons, isn't it?
And I suppose the project as well has also turned into I'm calling it really a debut album in many ways, because I feel like it is a rejuvenation, and it's a fresh start back to what I know. So a lot of those songs will be featured on that as well, and just in the final stages of that, like mixing and mastering it at the moment, which is really, really exciting. All conceived in Connemara, all more or less about the west of Ireland and the stories and sounds that I collected. So I'm really looking forward to getting that out in the world, whenever that may be, like 2030, I don't know. But soon, anyway, soon.
Yeah. Brilliant. And you have your autumn chapter with Lima Wainley, don't you?
Yeah. He was up actually at the weekend in Carrow. We were doing a little gig up a mountain there for a trad picnic. So that was brilliant. Just no set list, just wanted to see what happened. And we played all sorts of music, from Bosnian, African, Irish, country, everything. It was a lot of fun.
Amazing. Yeah.
So we just see what happens with the rest of as I was saying to you, it's a fairly fast changeover. Like it's shot and recorded in a week, and it's out 3 or 4 weeks later, and that's all the amount of time that I can put to it before I want to do something else. So it's fairly fast changeover, but it's exciting.
Yeah. I loved your collaboration for Tradfest. You had a collaboration with Hot House Flowers.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
looks like great crack.
That was the first gig, I think, all last year, so that was just brilliant. Yeah, great bunch of lads to get to play with, for sure.
Yeah, there's such a buzz of playing with other humans now. I've gotten a little taste for it, doing it outdoors now recently, but just playing with other people again, there's nothing like it.
Long may it last, long may it last.
Absolutely. So it's been absolutely lovely, Claire, to talk to you about your current and past projects.
Well, thanks, Louise. So nice chatting to you, and I'm delighted our paths haven't crossed yet, but they have in many other ways, and all the funny similarities of all our interests. So just absolutely delightful to talk to you.
So we'll meet up for a surf in Clare, and we'll bring our fiddles.
Yes. Kinta at the same time.
Absolutely, at the same time. Brilliant. Okay, thanks a million, Claire. Thank you for listening to the Music As podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's interview with Claire. You can follow the podcast at Music As Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and now on YouTube also. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the podcast if you enjoy it. See you next time.